A long walk home, a quiet argument, and a question that exposed the heart. A single sentence from Jesus that shattered pride. And a child standing in the middle of grown men, teaching them what heaven looks like. Mark 9:33-37 captures one of the most intimate and revealing moments in Jesus' ministry. It happens not in the temple, not in front of crowds, but in a humble house in Capernaum. The disciples had been walking with him for days, their minds full of excitement. They had seen miracles, heard prophecies, and witnessed the glory of God on the mountain. They were following the Messiah, the one who could command storms, heal diseases, and raise the dead. But as they walked, a very human question stirred among them. Which of us is the greatest? It's almost easy to imagine. They whisper among themselves, careful that Jesus doesn't overhear. Peter had been on the mountain during the Transfiguration. Surely he ranks high. John is the beloved disciple. James is bold and strong. Judas carries the group's money. Maybe he sees himself as a future treasurer of a coming kingdom. Each one in their own way measures their worth against the others. The footsteps along the dusty road become an echo of human ambition, a rhythm we all know too well. When they reach the house, Jesus turns and asks, "What were you arguing about on the road?" Silence. They freeze. The argument that felt important moments ago suddenly feels small. They're embarrassed, like children caught comparing trophies in front of a parent who values love over competition. Jesus doesn't lecture them. He doesn't shame them. Instead, he sits down, the posture of a teacher ready to reveal something eternal. His words are few, but revolutionary. Anyone who wants to be first must be the very last and the servant of all. He doesn't say ambition is wrong. He says ambition must be redeemed. The desire to be great isn't sinful, it's misdirected. In the kingdom of God, greatness isn't achieved by climbing higher, it's revealed by kneeling lower. Then Jesus calls a child, perhaps the child of a nearby family, small and barefoot, curious but unafraid. He places the child among the disciples, then gently takes the little one in his arms. "Whoever welcomes one of these little ones in my name welcomes me," he says. "And whoever welcomes me does not welcome me, but the one who sent me." In that moment, everything changes. The disciples, fishermen, tax collectors, men shaped by hierarchy and competition, see greatness embodied not in strength or intellect, but in humility and dependence. The child cannot earn favor, cannot return status, cannot advance anyone's position. Yet Jesus holds this child as a living example of how the kingdom of God works. To be great in God's eyes is to welcome, to serve, to care, especially for those who can give you nothing in return. It's a picture that speaks directly into our world today. We live in an age where greatness is measured in influence, achievement, followers, and success. People climb ladders, chase recognition, and build platforms, but Jesus redefines it all. The greatest among you will be the servant of all. When you think about it, this is the same Jesus who washed his disciples' feet, the teacher kneeling before his students. The same Jesus who touched lepers, who ate with outcasts, who lifted the broken. His entire life was a sermon in motion. Greatness is love made visible. The child in his arms is also a symbol of how we are to approach God, with simple trust. A child doesn't worry about rank or image. A child believes, receives, and depends. That's what faith looks like, not power, but surrender. What Jesus teaches here goes beyond manners or morality. It's about heart posture. To serve others is not a duty. It's the reflection of divine love. The Son of God came not to be served, but to serve. The closer we draw to his heart, the more our desire to dominate fades, replaced by the desire to love. Imagine for a moment what that conversation must have felt like afterward. The disciples, sitting quietly, realizing that the Messiah, whom they thought would establish a mighty kingdom, is calling them to a kingdom of humility. A kingdom where washing feet is greater than wielding swords. A kingdom where love defines leadership. It must have been uncomfortable, because everything in them, everything in human instinct wanted to rise. But Jesus was showing them something eternal. Those who lift themselves will be brought low, but those who humble themselves will be lifted up. This lesson became a cornerstone of their ministry. Years later, Peter would write, "Clothe yourselves with humility toward one another." John would write about love as the mark of discipleship. They had learned, through Jesus' words and actions, that greatness in God's kingdom begins with humility in the heart. Let's turn that truth toward us. How often do we measure ourselves by how much we've achieved, how many people notice us, how much we control? Even in faith, we can chase recognition, to be seen as the most spiritual, the most influential, the most important. But in the quiet way of Christ, greatness hides in simplicity, the unseen kindness, the uncelebrated service, the love that gives without keeping score. Jesus didn't just tell his disciples to serve, he showed them. He modeled what it means to welcome the forgotten, forgive the undeserving, and love the unlovable. That's the kind of greatness that changes the world, one humble act at a time. When he held that child, Jesus wasn't just teaching, he was revealing the heart of God. The creator of the universe identifies himself with the smallest, the weakest, the least significant. Whoever welcomes this child welcomes me. In other words, how we treat the powerless reveals how we treat God. That truth pierces deep, because it's easy to show kindness to people who can benefit us, but to welcome the ones who can't, the overlooked, the inconvenient, the ordinary. That's where divine love is tested and proven. Every generation has struggled with pride, but pride wears different clothes in each era. In ours, it might look like ambition without compassion, success without integrity, or confidence without humility. Yet Jesus calls us back to the heart of servanthood. He isn't asking us to think less of ourselves, but to think of ourselves less. He's showing us that greatness in God's economy is not measured in what you accumulate, but in what you give away. Not in how many people serve you, but in how many you serve. That's why he said, anyone who wants to be first must be the last. It's not punishment, it's the pathway to joy. When you live to serve, you find peace the world can't give. When you give without expecting return, you discover the secret freedom of love. Think of the people in your life who have truly impacted you. Chances are they weren't the loudest or most powerful. They were the ones who served quietly, who loved consistently, who made time when no one else did. That's the reflection of Christ. The world celebrates pride, heaven crowns humility. And that's the paradox of Jesus' message. The higher you climb in self-importance, the emptier you become. But the lower you kneel in love, the more your heart fills with God's presence. The disciples would eventually see this truth written not just in words, but in blood. On the cross, Jesus, the Son of God, the King of all creation, would take the lowest place. He would serve to the end, washing not just feet, but souls. And because he humbled himself, God exalted him to the highest place. That is the pattern of the kingdom. From humility comes glory. From serving comes greatness. So how does this apply to us today? It begins where pride whispers. When we feel the urge to prove ourselves, to outshine others, to demand recognition, that's our road to Capernaum moment. And Jesus asks, what are you arguing about on the road? It's an invitation to lay down our striving and learn again what matters most. In your home, it might mean choosing patience over pride. At work, it might mean lifting others instead of competing with them. In church, it might mean serving quietly without needing to be noticed. In daily life, it might mean stopping for someone no one else sees. That's where greatness lives, in small, unseen acts of love. The story ends not with applause, but with transformation. The disciples leave that house changed. They don't fully understand yet, but a seed has been planted. A seed that will grow into a movement shaped by service, compassion, and humility. Later, Jesus will kneel again, this time with a basin and towel, washing their feet before his death. He will say, I have set you an example that you should do as I have done for you. It's the same message he gave them in Capernaum, just lived out in deeper love. In the end, greatness is not about how high you rise, but how deeply you love. The servant's path is not glamorous, but it leads to the heart of God. When you choose humility, you mirror the very nature of Christ. So today, ask yourself, where can I serve? Whom can I welcome? How can I reflect Jesus' humility in my world? Those simple questions are the foundation of eternal greatness. Because one day, when we stand before him, the words we'll long to hear won't be you were admired, but well done, good and faithful servant. Thank you for watching today's video. If this message touched your heart, please like, share, and follow Holy Path Insights. Let Jesus' words remind you that true greatness is not in power or position, but in love expressed through humble service. May his example lead you to serve others joyfully and may your heart find peace in the greatness of his grace.